Ask and you shall receive. What a wonderful phrase. But what did Jesus mean when he taught this as part of the Sermon on the Mount? Well, we could begin with the Greek. The Greek word for ask is aitete. But the significant thing here is not necessarily the word itself, although that's very, very important. It's the tense. You see, the tense in this case is called the present imperative. And the present imperative carries an extra level of meaning. And this is evident in some of the translations. So, for example, let's suppose we have shut the door. If that was in the present imperative, it could mean always shut the door. If we took do your homework before tea, it could mean always do your homework before tea. But there is another translation for the present imperative, and that is the idea of keeping on. So, keep on shutting the door. Doesn't really make sense. But keep on doing your homework before tea. Now that makes a lot of sense. Keep on asking and you shall receive. That makes a lot of sense. But Jesus, being the amazing teacher that he is, he adds two more layers. He doesn't just say, keep on asking. He adds, keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open to you. In one sense, the message is directed at you. The message is directed at me. You praying in your room privately to the Father. Me praying in my room privately to the Father. The whole of this verse begins with your heart. And it begins with my heart. We open up our hands, we open up our heart, and we ask. And so we ask day after day after day. Eventually, if you're like me, you might wilt. But if your heart is really beating for what you're requesting, you may persevere. You may go on from asking to seeking. What do I mean? Well, you could say to the Lord, Lord, is this the place that I have to go? Is this the thing that you want me to do? Is this the way in which you want me to seek your will in this difficult thing that I'm asking you for? So perhaps the Lord will say, yes, this is the way. And you pursue this route for God to fulfill his will through your life, your heartbeat. But then what happens is this. At some point, you'll come across a door. And at that point, you and I, we need the courage to knock. And we knock. And we keep on knocking. And maybe the door will be opened and somebody will say, no, this isn't the door. Why don't you try such and such a place? And so you move. And you move and you knock on a different door. You see, it's a bit like the mustard seed. The mustard seed, that part of your faith heart, you plant it in the ground. If you plant it in the ground and leave it and walk away, well, okay, in the case of a mustard seed, you might get away with it. But what Jesus is looking for is people who will persevere for him. People will go from asking to seeking to knocking. So you might say to yourself, well, why can't God give me just what I want the first time I ask? When you're a child, that would be okay, wouldn't it? For example, Mom, I want an ice cream. But is God meant to be like that? God is an amazing being. He's the creator of the universe. Yeah, we are his children. He does love us. But he doesn't want us to stay just children. In 1 John, the letter that John wrote as an epistle, it uses these three ideas. It used children, young men, and then fathers. A child wants something instantly. So you ask and you expect God to give it to you. But the young men, they understand a little bit more about perseverance. People say to them, oh, it'll never work. And they become more determined, don't they? They become determined to persevere. And sometimes the enemy comes along and saying, oh, God will never do that for you. And the young men, they persevere. But eventually, this is God's plan, is that we go from being children to young men to being fathers. And the beauty of a father is the father creates, the father nurtures, the father takes responsibility. And so this is God's plan for you. He doesn't just want you to be a child of God, as wonderful as that is. He doesn't just want you to stay as being an Abba Father. He wants you to move on and to grow into being a young man in your faith, and then eventually to a father in the faith. A father nurtures, a father creates, a father takes responsibility. Now, before we move on to the final thought, I just would like to share with you a little testimony. It's from a lady called Helen Pollard. She's based in Devon now. And she's written this book. It's called Outgrowing The Shackles. And as a daughter, she was unloved and she was ritually abused. But as a 14-year-old, somehow, I don't know how this happened, she decided to be confirmed in the church. And so she had this fledgling faith. But really, there was this question in her mind: is God real? And is God real for me? And I'd just like to read the story that she shares in this book that showed her that God was real. One night after I decided to get confirmed, I prayed, God, if you're real, give me a pony on my 14th birthday. I prayed this every night. By saying it over and over again, I could quell the sexual spirits and hold off the tormenting voices. The years from 13 to 14 were very hard, but during that time I discovered the God I'd never known personally to be real. I continued to pray my prayer to have a pony by my birthday on the 19th of May, 1966. That possibility grew when Grandpa gave me some money as inheritance. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to buy a horse. 7 days before the day in question, my best friend phoned to say a local dealer had a 3-year-old screwball for sale. Her family had several horses and knew my passion. They let me ride occasionally, but their horses were show jumpers, so they had to be careful not to interrupt their training regime. The family offered all sorts of help if I took on the pony. My friend even offered to look for grazing for me and found it on within 24 hours. Somehow, Dad, my abuser, was persuaded to go and see the pony. It was a very green pony, and it threw me off when a plane flew overhead. Although the dealer did say I fell well, Dad was still keen and agreed to let me buy the pony with Grandpa's money. So incredibly, on my birthday, the deal was done, and I had a pony of my own. So the question this morning, is there a mustard seed in your faith heart? If there is, when you're alone in your room with your Heavenly Father, will you ask? Will you keep on asking? And in your room alone with your Heavenly Father, will you seek? And will you keep on seeking? And in your room alone with your Heavenly Father, will you knock and keep on knocking? God bless you each. Amen.